Please, thank you. Hi, everyone. We're going to be looking at data manipulation today. Well, we're going to do a couple of things with the data. We are going to look into sorting. We're going to look into filtering. We're going to look into creating pivot tables. And if we can get to charts, we'll get to charts today. So this is just like a data dump. I'm just going to hide my screen. So this is a data dump, and it's just basically data from a shop. They sell bikes, skateboards, snowboards, and it's a data from their sales department. So they have the names of the salesperson, the region where the salesperson operates. So this is like a typical business data that you will find that you might want to analyze. So the first thing we want to do with this data is we want to filter it. And the way to apply filters to a data is if you click anywhere in the data, as long as the data is all together, if you go to your data and then click filter, if you click on filter, you can see something has happened to this data, and you can see some arrows here on the data. So these arrows are basically filters for the columns that you can use to filter that data. I'm going to give an example of column C, that is our product column. If we click on the down arrow here, we can see from here that we have only three products. We have the bike, we have skateboard, and we have snowboard. If I select just the bike and click OK, what it will filter out all the others and show me just bike and the data for bike. So if you scroll all the way down, you can only see the bike.
Give me words. I don't know. Is it there?
Sorry? So you can only see the bike, and all the other data will be hidden.
Am I supposed to have this data already?
No, you don't have the data. Let me send the data.
Okay.
I'm going to send the I'm going to drop the data into the chat now. So I've sent the data to you. I've dropped it in the chat. Can you confirm if you have it, please? If you can access it. I think it's been sent to everyone.
Yes, it's there.
Okay. So if possible, you can do it alongside, or you can go back and do it later. So the only thing we've done is put a filter on this data, and we filtered by bike. So I'm going to take out the filter, and to take out the filter on bike, I can click on that arrow again and go to clear filter from product. And then it clears the filter. I'm going to go back and I'm going to undo that. If you notice, when the data is filtered, it would show on that small arrow, you can see there's something like a bigger funnel beside it. That shows that data you filtered on that column, that is what you've used to filter. And anytime there's a filter, because sometimes your spreadsheet can be quite big. And if you want to check if there's a filter on a spreadsheet, if you go to the menu here, if you're on the filter tab, sort and filter, if you're clear, if you can select it, If it's highlighted, that means there's a filter on that data. I'm going to clear this filter now. So once I've cleared the filter, can you see that the clear button is not highlighted, which shows that there's no filter on your data. So that's an easy way of knowing if there's a filter on your data or not, because sometimes you have a data and you're looking for something and you can't find it, not knowing that that data is already filtered. So you need to clear the filter before you can find what you're looking for. If you want to filter by first name, and it's actually a quick way to know if it's a data that has like small, if it's a spreadsheet that has small data, then it doesn't have a lot of options. For instance, like the products, they're just 3 products. So you can easily see when you click the arrow that there are just 3 products. Sometimes, most times, it will be much more than that. On the name, on the first name, I can say that I've got 7 salespeople on this data. So it's a quick way of knowing what is on your data and what you can find. And you can always like scroll down to see. I mean, if it's a long data with lots of options, you can always scroll down and pick whatever you want. So to select the data, click on the arrow. You can first, depending on what you want to select, you can uncheck select all, click on what you want to select, or in some cases, it might be that the ones you want to select are more than the ones you don't want to select. So you can keep your select all and just uncheck the ones you don't want. So depending on your data. One other thing we can also do with our filters is we can sort the data. So once you put your filter on, you can actually sort the data by different things. For instance, if you want to sort this by the number of units, because we have numbers here, it will give you the option of sorting from largest to smallest or smallest to largest, because it's recognized that we have numbers on this day column. If I want to sort this, I can easily sort, okay, I want to sort from smallest to largest. And then I sort from smallest to largest. So you can see that the smallest units we have here at 7, followed by 8, and it will just sort the data. So once you have your filter on, it will sort all the data. So you are not risking leaving some data out. But I always warn that when you want to sort data, always make sure you have everything selected. If it's a filter, you have all your filters in, so that you don't mis-sort the data. So you don't just sort one column and then the others are left. And then that would actually corrupt the data. So I would undo that. And another way, if I want to sort by product, for instance, because on the product, these are not numbers. If I click here, it would only give me the option to sort from A to Z or Z to A, because it has recognized that there are no numbers here. So it would ask to sort either from A to Z or Z to A. If we sort from Z to A, then we start with the snowboard, followed by the skateboard and the bike. I would undo that. And in columns where there are dates, because it will recognize that these are dates, as long as the dates, they are in the date format, it will ask you if you want to sort from oldest to newest or newest to oldest, because it has already recognized that you are sorting dates. So you can also do that sort. Anyway, it recognizes the text, it will ask you to sort from A to Z. If it's a number, it will ask you to sort maybe from largest to smallest or smallest to largest. If it's a date, it would always be from oldest to newest or newest to oldest. And if you have colors on this spreadsheet, for instance, if you color this bit here, I'm going to color in the middle. If I color it yellow, for instance, I can sort. If I go here, I can sort by color. So I can sort by color yellow, and automatically it brings the yellow to the top. If you have any questions while we're doing this, please put it in the chat. And then I would check the chat and pick it up along the way. Okay. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat, and then I will pick it along the way. So that's basically filtering and sorting data. And another way we can actually also analyze and sort this data is by using a pivot table. We have our data here, and we've been tasked with, finding the sales. So find the number, the total sales per salesperson. Find total sales per salesperson. So we know that we have Andrew Benson Davis. We have a couple of salespeople, and probably their bonus is based on the number of sales or the number of units of sales they've made. So to easily find this, we can put this data on a pivot table. And the first thing we need to do when we want to insert a pivot is to select the data we want to put in the pivot. So in this case, I'm going to select from cell A2 all the way down to the end of the data. And I would go to Insert, Pivot Table. So once I click Insert Pivot Table, it comes up with a dialog box here. My table range is already here, selected. So it's referencing A2 to G117, which is the area I've selected. And you can see that my selection, you can see something going round and around it. So that is my selection. And it would ask me, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. I want this, you can put the pivot table anywhere really. I want this pivot table on this particular worksheet. So instead of going to a new worksheet, I want it in an existing worksheet, which is this one. Now I need to select my location where I want it. So I just want it by the side, really. And then, okay. So this is my pivot. So what it will give me is like, it gives me like a blank canvas for my pivot. And then I need to now put my data, depending on what I want to do for this. So the first thing I want is, we're looking for total sales per salesperson. This is a very simple pivot. So we just want the salesperson and their sales. So the first thing I would do is look for the salesperson here, and which is their first name, column F. So it would give you all the heading of your column as options to pick here. And you can now put it where you want it. If you want to use it as a filter, you drag it into this filter box here. If you want this to be a column, you drag it into the column box. If you want it to be a row, part of a row, you drag it into the row. And any values you want to add or analyze or count, you put in the value box. So I'm going to start with first name. So you can select the first name and drag it into the rows. And then you can see what has happened to our pivot here. The names are now on the row. And I want their sales. Simple. I'll just move the sales and put it in the values. And it's defaulted to sum of sales, which is what I want. Sometimes you might want to count, or sometimes it defaults to count, and you might want sum. If you click on the sum of sales, if you click on value field settings here, you have options to do different things with the numbers. So you can sum, you can count, you can average, max, mean, product. So there are so many options depending on what you want to do. In this case, I want to sum it, so I'm happy with sum. If it has defaulted to count, I would change that to sum. And this is it, really. Simple pivot table is actually summarize the sales. If you look at this total sales figure here, 645,100. If you add all this together, you realize that it's 645,100. So it's always good that anytime you do anything in Excel, it's always good to like double check, because sometimes if you think that you selected all the data, it might be that you did not select all the data, and that would affect whatever you get on the pivot. So it's always just good to double check or just do a spot check to make sure that you have picked everything and it's giving you the answer you want. So that's our pivot. Anytime you click on the pivot, your pivot table fields appear by the side. You can close that if you don't want it to disturb you. And to bring it back, all you need to do is go to the pivot table analyze and go to your field list, and your field list will appear by the side. So this is total sales per person. If you want to create total sales per region, for instance, who can help us with that? Total sales per region, what do we not need to do?
Would you drag region to filter?
To filter, let's try that. Let's see what it does. Region to filter. So it's come up with this message. And the reason why it's come up with it is because this is when you do a filter, this is where it goes to. It goes at the top here. And because if we dragging it to filter means we want to filter on the region. So if we drag it to filter, it means that we want to use region to filter. And we can just use the filter the same way we use filters on the table. You can select multiple, you can select some. For instance, if you select Northeast, this will
Sorry,
only
can someone
relate
is disturbing us, please? Can that person be muted? Can that person be? Thank you.
So we can filter by region. Well, in this case, we don't want region on the filter. We want it on either row. Let's try with row. Let's move it to row. Let's move this region to row and take off. I'm just going to clear the filter here, because once you put a filter, it will be there. So I will remove region from filter, and I'll drag region to row. So I've dragged region to row. So now what we have on our pivots, we have region and we have the names of the people. And one thing pivot does, it defaults to this classic. This is like a classic view of a pivot. And it's kind of, I don't usually use this view because I prefer the other view because you can see the data you have on your pivot more clearly. So what I do to change my pivot layout is I right click on the pivots. I go to pivot table options. I go to display, and I always pick the classic pivot table layout. And what happens when you pick the classic, you can drag things on the pivots, you can move things around on the pivots when you use the classic pivot layout. Okay. And you can see the difference between what we had before and what we have now. So now we have clearly defined columns. We have a region and column. In the first column, we have the name, and then we have the total. I'll just bring back my field list. So in this case, while we have the total for the region, we also have the names of the people under the region. If we don't want the names of the people under the region, we just want region and we want total per region. I can just unselect the first name, and then we have the region, and the total. And in all cases, you can see that the total remains the same. So what we can do with this, we can cut it and dice it in any way we want, depending on what we want to do. So if, for instance, I think someone mentioned that we should put region in columns. Let's try region in columns and see what it looks like. So this is our region in column, and that is the total per column. If we put salespeople, first name in row, and then now we have a table. So we know that Andrews are sold under 3 regions. So we can see that these salespeople, they're not just in one region. They have sold in different regions. So everything depends on what you want to do as what you're trying to analyze. So you can actually cut and dice this any way you want. Let's look at what other thing can we add to this table, to this pivots. Who wants to help us? What else can we analyze? What else can we use this table to? This this is our sales data, a download from like the sales system. What else?
Of course,
As a data analyst, what else can you be asked to
we
analyze?
can analyze by product as well.
Yeah, we can analyze by product.
We have different product there, so we can
Yeah.
decide to know the overall performance for
Yeah.
each of the products.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
It might be that, okay, you want to know your highest selling products.
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
Of course, you can decide to bring it in, either in form of row or column.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
put it in. Let's put it in row. That's our
Yeah.
products. Let's put
Yeah.
it in row.
Yeah.
We can take off the
names, the region.
we can take off the region.
Yeah.
If we take off the region, we can see that, bike is our highest selling. It is where we get the most income from. It might not be the highest selling based on products or the count of products, but based on the amount of money, bike is the highest selling. And we might decide that it might be that they're trying to like make a decision on what region should we push bike to? What region should we put skateboard to? What region would we have more sales in snowboard? How do we add that in?
I mean, it's at that point we're not bringing the region.
At that point, we bring in the region.
Yeah, to regionalize our products.
So we can put the region.
Put it in columns. Yeah,
let's put it in columns.
Yeah.
So we have our region in columns, and we have our products in rows. And we can see from, bike is our highest selling product. However, it sells more in Pacific. So we know that anytime we have, we push more bikes to Pacific, but for some reason, they buy more bikes. And snowboard sells more in the Southwest. Maybe they have a lot of snow there. And we know that it doesn't sell as much in North Pacific, whereas bike sells more in Pacific. So there's different things you can use this data for. So you can just cut and dice it depending on what you want to do. One other thing we can also do with pivot is, before I go there, just some do's and don'ts with pivots. When you have a pivot, it would not you cannot change the data within the pivots because the data is picking from a particular source. If you want to change the data on your pivots, you have to change the data on the source. So for instance, this 7,800, if I'm trying to click here to change this, and it won't let me because it's going to tell me we can't change this part of the pivot because that pivot is picking from a particular data. And if you need to change the source of your data for the pivots, if you go to pivot table analyze and go to change data source, it might be that you have this pivot and you want to feed in a new set of data into these pivots. So instead of creating a new pivot, you can just change the data source. So all you're saying is, instead of looking in this direction, in direction A, look for the data in direction B. So if you click on change data source, it comes up with this and it shows your range where your data is picking from. So if you want to change this, so this is our data for this pivot. If you want to change this, you can easily just select. If we select, like for instance, this, then it will change my data to just this my selection. So it might be that you are selecting from another tab, or you might be selecting from a different worksheet entirely. So it's whatever you put as a selection here, that is what your pivot is picking up. I'm going to cancel this. And then when you're creating a pivot, your selection must have a heading before your pivot can work. So if, for instance, I'm going to, this unit, if I delete that unit, so I don't have a header on this particular column. If I try to create a pivot with this data, it won't work because it needs for every column to have a header. I'll try and create a pivot. So let's see. So if we do, if I select this and insert.
Sorry,
Pivot table.
sorry, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You know the row 2, you know how all of them, they have a drop down. How did you do that?
Oh, okay. So that was the first thing we did. I'm going to show you. If you go to data, can you see this filter tab?
Yeah.
You are inserting a filter.
Okay.
So I'm going to, if I click on it, that will disappear. Those arrows will disappear. And if I click back, the filters will appear. So those are filters. So it's just by clicking this filter.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I also have another question. How did you get the pivot?
How did I, sorry?
The pivot for that first one we were doing in terms of like the back and the front. How did you get that thing to come back on the side? I'm kind of struggling.
Oh yeah. So if you want your what's it called? Your field list to come back, if you click on the pivot, if you have not hidden the field list, if you click on the pivot, anywhere on the pivot, then your field list will appear. But because I've closed it, if you click on the pivot table analyze and field list, this is your field list here. Can you see? If you click on it, your field list will appear.
Okay, thank you.
But because it takes up my screen space, I just close it. And anytime you need it, just click on the field list and it comes back. Okay. So we're on do's and don'ts of pivots. So your pivots must have a header. If you don't have a header, the pivot would not work. So I've taken off unit A, and I'm going to select my data to create a new pivot. So I would insert pivot table, and I'm just going to put it beside this one. I'm pretty sure that one will give me an error once I do this. Okay. So normally, if I add a header, it will just create the pivot, but it's come up with an error message. The pivot table field name is not valid. To create a pivot table report, you must use data that is organized as a list with labeled columns. So all your columns must be labeled. Otherwise, you can't create a pivot table. So I'm going to cancel that. And the only reason why it's giving me an error is because this bit here is blank. I'll put units back here. And then I'll try and recreate the pivot table. And that will be insert, pivot table, existing worksheets. I want it here. And that is okay. And then I have my pivot table I have the canvas in to start dropping things in. So that's another thing with pivot tables. You have to have a header. And one other thing you can do with this pivot is you can move it around. Because we've chosen the classic display, I think on some newer Excel, even with the other display, you can move things around. So I can move this. If I want Pacific to start, I can drag Pacific and drag it here. I want Atlantic to be the last. I can drag Atlantic to the last bit here. My pivots as total as a default. If I don't want the total to appear, I can always take the total off using the pivot table option. So if I right click on this pivot table, I have this pivot table option that would come out, and I can from here, I can go to totals and filters. So this is showing grand total for rows and also shows grand total for columns. If for some reason I don't want the grand total per row, I can take that off and OK, and my row total has disappeared. I would undo that. If I don't want row total for columns, I go to pivot table options, totals and filters. I don't want total for columns, okay. And then my total for the column has disappeared. Okay. I would undo that because what's the purpose of a pivot without the totals? And what are the also, you can use the sort function here to sort from A to Z. You can sort your product from Z to A or A to Z, so you can easily sort within here. One other thing we can do with our pivot is we can also add in a pivot chart. So I've got my pivot table. Let me take off I'm going to take off region for a minute. And before we do charts, I'm just going to show us how to use a slicer to filter the data. So I've got a snowboard, I've got the product and the totals. You can use a slicer as a filter on these pivots. And this is a slicer. If you go to pivot table analyze, you can insert slicer. Let's see, let's slice by region. Okay. So the slicer is just basically another way of filtering the data. And what I'm using to filter is the region. So I can choose, if you look at this side here, I can choose to filter by just Pacific. And this is just for Pacific, not East. You can see as I change the filter, the figures are changing because it's only picking what I've selected. If you want to filter by more than one region, you can do a control and select. If you want everything, that is everything. So it's basically acting as a filter. I'm going to clear the filter. So that is it. So you can insert a slicer just by the side, and you can easily, filter and change your pivots. One other, let me just take out the slicer, otherwise it will take up space. We can insert a chart using these pivots. If we go to pivot table analyze, we can insert pivot charts. So if we insert a pivot chart, it is linked to these pivots. And it works like your charts. You can insert a column for simplicity, let's do column. And okay. And this is our column data, a column chart. So it's just the product in a chart. And when you change it, the chart will change. When you change the pivots, the chart will change. I'm going to insert the slicer back so that we can change it by region.
Sorry, could you repeat that step on getting the chart, please?
Okay. If you go to pivot table analyze, there's an option here that says pivot charts. If you click on pivot charts, you have an option to insert different types of charts. You can put your line charts, you can put a pie chart, bar chart. So you have the option of using all these charts. If we click on column charts, and just pick a simple column chart and okay, then you have your chart. I've just moved it to the side so it doesn't cover what we have before. And your chart is linked to your pivot. If your pivot changes, your chart will change. So this is Northeast. We have Northeast selected. And on the chart, we can easily see the highest selling products in the Northeast, which is why charts are good, because it gives you a visual representation of the data. If we go to Pacific, for instance, Pacific, we can see bike is still the highest selling product, but skateboard is close to bikes. If we go to Southwest, Southwest has a higher number of sales in snowboard, and the skateboard is the least. So anytime you change your pivots, your chart changes. So it's good if you have like a presentation to do, you can easily, change your filters using your slicer, and then you know that your charts will change depending on what you're presenting. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
We can insert let's insert another type of chart. Let's insert a pie chart. We have a pie chart here, which shows the percentage. This is just simple. We can change the type of charts we have to something like this that actually shows the percentage of, and it is closely linked to this pivot. So anything, if your pivot changes, everything changes. Sometimes it's good to use your pie charts when you're looking at percentages, when you're comparing simple percentages, because it's clearer here that the snowboard has a higher level of sales, 47% compared to the others in the Southwest. In the Pacific, 43% is bike and 41% skateboard. Okay. So that is simple pivots, inserting pivots and inserting pivot charts. We're going to look at, so I have list on my list. If you have any questions before we move on, please let's take that now before we move on from pivots. Is everyone confident that you can create a simple pivot table? Okay, my row 2 doesn't have those down arrows. So sorry, I think we've addressed that. Pressures, are you okay with the down arrows?
Yeah, I'm okay now. It was the one that you put the filter on.
Okay, the filter. Okay, okay, great. Okay. So we're gonna move on from pivots and do charts. Let me see. Just checking that you can see my screen. I've changed the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to look at charts. And we can have different types of charts. I think it's depending on what you're trying to like present. It's always good, like when you have a report. I mean, when you do a report, you normally, as well as putting your data in, you would all normally have your charts in as well. Because it makes it look, apart from the fact that it helps the people who are reading the report or the recipients of the report to actually see a visual presentation of the data. It also can also make your work really professional and look very well done. I have some simple data here just to create different types of charts. And the chart you will pick depends on what you are doing at that point in time. We have a column chart. We have a column chart. And to insert, the first thing you need to do to insert a chart is you need your data. You need to select the data you want. If we select this data, I'm just going to select this data here, which is for ABC company, North, South, East, and West region. And this is their sales data for January, February, and March. And I want to present this on a chart. I will select my data. I'll go to insert, and I'll open up my charts. So the first chart I want to use is, go to all charts. The first one I want to use is column charts. Let's look at this.
Sorry, are we going to get this data as well?
Yeah, I can send this to you as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
When you click on anywhere on the chart tag, you can actually see what it will do. So you see an example of what your data will look like. So you don't have to insert it before you have an idea of what it would look like. If we look at this one, compared to this and this, let's pick the first one. And once you select OK, and then you have your chart. You have your chart here. Most organizations would actually have like their preferred colors, like your official colors that you tend to like use when you do like reports and presentations. And you might want to align your chart color to that. The only thing with chart colors is you can't actually change individual colors. You have to change them as a group. So if we go to change colors here, we have group of colors. So you can pick the one that most closely aligns with what, I mean, depending on what you want to do, you might want to like match your organization's color, or you might want to like pick a neutral color. So you have to change it as a group. You won't like you cannot pick, like for instance, you can't pick like individual bar colors. You have to change as a group. I know there are like Excel gets better every time. So I'm hoping that maybe one day would have an option to be able to change like individual colors. In this case, let's pick.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
You know, in Excel, can you change y-axis and the x-axis, or is it always like set by the system?
You mean you want your X to be Y and your Y to be, the data on your X to be Y and the data on your X, I mean, you want to interchange the data.
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can. We'll get to that. You can
Okay.
change it. You can interchange it, so you can swap it around.
Okay. Thank you.
So change colors. What are we picking? Yeah, we can pick this colorful. So we change the color. You can change your chart title here. So it might be, let's change it to ABC company sales Q1. Q1. So you can change your title. Let's see, what else can we do? If you click on this paintbrush here, you have the option. If you don't like the chart you picked, you have the option of changing it to another one. If we change it to this, for instance, we can change it to one with the numbers in. So that looks too busy. There's another one, black background with a number. We can change it. So you have the option to change to any to change your chart type, really, using this. So you can change the chart style. I'm gonna put it back on the first.
We are still waiting for the data split.
Okay, because I have the data open, it won't let me attach it. Let me. I'm just gonna resave the data, so you let me send to you. Charts, data. Okay, I'm gonna. Oh man, so I'm just gonna. I've sent that to the chat now. Did you get that? Pretty sure I sent to everyone. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I sent to some. I sent to only Precious. Let me do that again. I sent to everyone. Did you get that?
Yes, it's there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Okay. So Connor, So we can change the style. Once you have your data, can you try and insert? If you try and insert a column chart, please. So the first thing you do is select data. Don't select the totals because you don't need the totals on the chart. If you select your January to March and north, south, east, and west, and go to your insert and insert a column chart. Let's start with that. Let me know if anyone is struggling with that. We can take that again. Okay. Do we have our chart?
Yes, we do.
Okay. After we've done this, I'm going to ask someone to share their screen so that we can see your beautiful chart after we've done this. So please.
Sorry, I haven't done the chart. How do you do
Okay.
it again? Can you show us again, please?
So you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
If you click here from cell A3, select to cell D7. Can you see my selection?
Yes.
If you go to insert, open up your chart box and pick a column chart. This is a column. You can pick any of the column charts. So I pick the first one here. And okay. And then you can move the chart to the side if it's covering any of the data. Did you get that?
It's asking me, I don't think I pressed on the right chart. It's asking me create spark lines. Choose the data that you want.
Do you want to share your screen? Let's see what you're doing.
So I think, okay, 1 second, please. Can you see it?
Oh, okay. Are you sure? Let's see. I think I need to stop sharing. Oh. Okay.
So I don't know whether I pressed on the wrong thing.
So you're okay. If you cancel this,
You said we should select.
okay. Yeah. So select. Okay. Go to insert. So
I
can you see
went
your
here.
chart? If
Is
you
it
click
this
on,
one?
yeah, because it picked spark lines. I don't know what that is. If you click, yeah, pick one of, so that's a starting to pick this one, the first one. If you go up,
This one?
you can go to recommended charts.
Okay.
If you click that, you should come up with a box.
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to all charts, And then the first one is the column chart.
Okay.
And okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And then you can drag your chart if you move it to the side. Do you know how to drag it? No. That's you're expanding it. If you click, yeah, once you have that, yeah, that's it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Let's continue sharing. Okay. So let's change the chart title. Let's change the chart title. If you put a chart title, whatever you want to call your chart, quarter one sales, ABC. Okay. Let's change the chart color. Let's change the color. If you go to your chart design, once you select anywhere on your chart, you see your chart design. Let's change the color. Change it to something different. You can change the style. If you look at the styles up here, there are quite a number of styles you can use. Without selecting it, if you just hover on it, you can see what your chart will look like. So you can actually change it. Let's see. That's the chart. There's a plus beside the chart here. If you click on that plus, you can change different things. You can add stuff. You can add, so there will be some things that are already selected depending on the type of chart that you've picked. So for instance, I've already got my legend here. The chart I have has grid lines. If I take off grid lines, then it takes that off. If I axis title, and I decide to add axis title, and you can put in your axis, or maybe this would be, let's see, sales, my sales total. And then I can decide this is my region or area.
So do you know how to get that for Mac? It's kind of, it's not the same like layout for us.
This one?
Yeah, so that plus, I'm kind of struggling to find where it is. I'm using a Mac, that's why.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that depending on the type of Excel you're using, it would vary for different people. If you go to, do you have add chart elements? This bit here.
Yes.
Okay, if you click on that,
yeah,
there are elements you can add here.
Okay.
So you can use that as well.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So what you need to just play around with it, see what works, see what does not work, because sometimes when you use different versions of Excel, some things work in one, some things don't work in, some things that work in one version might not work in the other one. Like I know that some newer Excel versions, some things that I was not able to do before, like some formula, you find out that they're not, you can now do them in newer versions. So it depends on the version of Excel you're using. But anyone you're using would have all the basic ones. So you'll be able to like add stuff and change chart style. But if you can't find anything, it might be because of the version of Excel you're using. Okay, so what else? So we've added, so you can add things here. What else can we change? Just look at this bit here. This changes the color, changes the style. Let's look at this. Yeah. Oh, if we click on this, like a filter beside it, we can select or unselect our data. If we don't want not, for instance. Or is it taking not off? Oh, okay, I haven't applied this. If I take not off and apply, then it's taking not off the data, the chart, even though it's selected on the right, but because I've unselected it, so this works like a filter. And I'm going to put not back. I'm going to go to select data. And someone asked when we started that can we switch the axis? This is where you switch, you can change the axis. So if you click on this bit here, I'm going to put the not back on the line again. If you go to select data, there's this button here called switch row and column. Let's switch row and column and OK. What did I do? Oh, yeah. So we switch the row and column. Now we have the months here as against the, we had the region here. Now we have the months here. And then we now have the region as the bars. Select it. I'll switch it back. Okay. And then names.
Please, what did you press to get that box? That select, that box that was just there that you used to change the columns?
If you look at this chart filters, this.
Or is that one?
Yeah. So if you click on chart filters.
Yes.
There's select data at the bottom here. Can you see?
Yes, I can see it.
If you select the data, and then you can switch.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You can edit. And also there are usually multiple ways of doing things in Excel. So if we select it, I'm sure we can, yeah, look at the switch row and column. There's another button here that we can use at the top here to switch row and column. We can use this to select data as well. So if we click on that, it brings up that. And we want to move the charts. It will ask you where you want to place the chart. So you can use that to move the chart. So that's a column chart. Let's create another type of chart. Can someone else help us with another type of chart? Line charts, please. Who is gonna share their screen and do line charts with us?
I can share again if no one else wants to share.
Okay. Please do. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay.
That's it for me, right?
Yes, that's it for
Okay.
now.
Please share your screen and let's create a line chart.
So what do I do? The same data.
Yeah, the same thing.
Insert.
Insert here.
This one?
Yeah.
And which one should I pick?
You can pick anyone.
However, it's changing the bar chart, not the. Or is that what we're supposed to do? Are we not doing the second
I
data?
think it's placed it on the bar charts. If you move it, I think your bar charts, your column chart should still be under. Oh no, okay, it's changing
No,
it.
I've moved it.
Okay, okay, let's undo this.
Undo.
Yeah,
Undo again.
undo again, yeah, until we get back to your.
Are we using the data underneath the first one?
No, we're using the same data. Let's use the same data.
Okay.
So if you now select the data. And then we can move it to the side. I like the way you have your legend at the top on this. On your column chart, but you
My
know you can
column.
put your legend under this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I was
you
thinking
can
that.
you can change the position of your legend.
Yeah.
So if you select it and right click, you should be able to change the position of your legend. If you like want
Should
to
I
have
change it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, let's see. If you select your legend, not the side. You know your
This one.
legend. Your legend is the one. You know the north, south, east, west, and the linear that you have on top. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can use that. If you look at the arrow beside your legend, yes, you click
Yes.
on that, and then you can put it on the bottom, and then it goes
Yes.
to the bottom, and that gives
Yes.
you space to have like a chart title.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have our chart. We have a line chart. Okay, can you change the color on the line chart?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Can you change the style, please?
Style.
Yeah,
Is
the
it
chart
one of
style.
these ones?
Yeah, one of those ones, yeah. You can go down, yeah, that's fine. Can you put a chart title? Can you amend your chart title?
Oh.
You can undo that. If you double click inside, you should be able to. Yeah, let's go to files. Info.
What should I call it?
Anything you like.
Hmm.
Okay. Great. Can we have some new chart elements on this? Let's add the axis. Let's name the axis. If you go to your, yeah. Yeah. And then you can change the name of them.
Oh, what have I done?
You moved it. Yeah.
I wanted to spell sales.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah. Well done, Ifoma.
Thank
So you
you.
can create like a simple chart from, data, and how well this will just make your reporting really pop, and it actually looks like, you really know what you're doing, even if you
I
don't.
don't.
I'm not talking
I
about
just,
it, but when you put charts in your report, it kind of makes it like pop, makes it look professional.
yes.
And sometimes when you do a chart, then you actually see, you're able to see the story, see what you need to write about, really.
Mhm.
Let's someone else. Let's do pie charts. If you can stop sharing, I will share my screen. Thanks for that, Ifoma. Let's do
Thank you.
pie charts. Pie chart is more for like when you want to like compare for simple data, when you want to like do percentages, then pie charts is good for that. Line chart. Let's do pie chart. So for pie charts, you cannot select like it won't be multiple data. So for pie chart, it will just be like maybe just for January, let's compare the sales in maybe this 4 region. And if I select that and insert, I want a pie chart. Pie chart. And the good thing with Excel is it would always tell you what that is going to do. So it's just a simple chart to show proportion. So if you want to show proportion, as in you want to divide 100% into like bits, then you can use a pie chart for that. And that's my pie chart. And like with everything we have done, we can change the colors. I wanted to show percentages actually. So let me pick this. And this actually shows the percentage of what we're doing. Let's see. What's this? Let's look at this. And this is just showing January and showing the sales, just the percentage of sales per region, per this 4 region that I picked. If I want to extend my selection, I can easily like extend my selection down like this. And then I have a whole load of them, which does not look so nice. So let's see. Let's look at this. So I've got five regions. And if you want to, there's another chart called, well, can everyone do this before we move? Can we create a pie chart, please? Is someone else willing to share their screen?
We can.
Okay. And then we can, there's a chart called the pie of a pie, which looks like this. So it's like having a pie chart, and then you have a bit that is expanded. And then you can see, just it just looks like, you have a pie, you have one bit of the pie. So you have another pie for one bit of that pie. Let's see, let's select this. If I select this, for instance, and I want to, I'm just gonna move this aside. Let me move this pie chart to the side. So I will select this. I would insert. I'll go to, it's under pie, and it's called pie of a pie, which is this one here. And what it does, it would just open up a bit and create another pie out of that. Let's change it so that we have the outside the ones. Okay, I like this. So we have this pie of a pie. And you know that you can also, when you're doing maybe you want to like focus on a particular bit. I'm going to undo that. You can actually split your pie by just basically dragging it out. So that is me dragging out a share from this pie. So for some reason, I just like this. I like the pie of the pie, and there's a back of a pie as well. And it just, I think it looks nice, even though sometimes you can't really change what you focus on.
Please, can you explain that chart to us? What is it really showing us, this pie of a pie?
So the pie, what the pie shows you, pie will show you a percentage. So like you have a pie, like you have a pizza, and you cut it and you dice it. So your pizza is 100%, and your pie, you are just dicing it into percentages. So it's better to use a pie chart for when you want to show percentage in relation to the whole, to the 100%. And what the pie of a pie does, it will take one bit of that and open it up.
Okay.
So what it's doing is that it's taking, you have so while you have north, south, east, west, and Canada, this bit here, it has classed this as order. So if you have like a lot of data, instead of splitting it all up, so it has that as order. And that order is what it has analyzed beside here. Is that clear?
Yes, I understand. Yes.
You can also have a bar of a pie. If we change this, so let me do another one. I'll select the data.
So I've got a quick question. See how you got Canada, Costa Rica, and Mexico on there? How were you able to get those labels on it?
Oh, okay, it's a style. If you go to the style, chart design, so it's on the style here. So I just changed the style to pick the one that has the names. I think you can also, let me change it to no name. So it's an element, I think, that is added to data labels. So you can also add it with data labels. So if you click on plus, if you go to data labels, let's see, more options, value, series name, yep, category name, yeah. Let's look at that. Let's go Canada. Why has it not picked? I'm just going to undo. So if we add data labels, okay, center, no, inside. And let's try different things here to see what, yeah. So outside end actually gives me the outside end, best fit. I mean, just try different options, or the simple way. The first one I did was just going here and changing my chart style to the one with the name. So that's easier to do. Just change it to the one with the name. I'm going to undo to when. Okay, yeah, so I think I just picked,
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
yeah, I just picked one with the names and the percentages. Mm. Let me move that down. Let's do another pie chart. Let's do Bowlby pie. Yeah. So insert. Pie or charts. On pie. I want this. Let's look at this. Okay. Let's select data. So my data, I want January instead of February. I want February instead of January. Okay. And then I want percentages there. I want names. Net data. Let's see. Select data. And let me change this the one with percentages. Chart design. Let's say. Because are we all able to do this? I mean, the main thing is just play around with your charts until you get the one you want. There's no right or wrong way of doing charts as long as you're able to present the data in ways that people would understand it. That's just it for charts. Any other charts here? Those are bar charts. So we should be able to like create, charts, simple charts from data. Is there anything you want me to go over?
Everything is okay.
Okay, is anyone willing to share their colorful charts? And let's see if you have all your charts created. And one other thing is you can also change your chart type. So it doesn't have to be like a column chart. You can change it to something different. So change chart type will change your chart to something totally different. So if we change this, if you select your data, change chart type, and I want to change this to bar. Let's change it to bar, this bar. Okay. So you don't have to create a new chart. You can easily change your chart style or chart type, not the style now, the type. So we change this from column to bar. And you can drag your chart anywhere you want it to be. You can expand, you can reduce the size. And I'm sorry, no. Let's look at quick layouts. Let's see what we can do with quick layouts. Let me change this back to the column. That looks quite fun. So on quick layout, let's see what we can do with quick layouts. Okay. So on layouts, the same type, we can just, can you see what this is doing? If you go to quick layouts, you can change different things. Instead of changing elements one by one, I think what this has done is it has some template that is already done. And you can have like different layouts for your charts. So, and the good thing is it shows you what the layout consists of. So like this layout 9 has chart title, all the axes, major grid lines. This has data labels and last category. This has a table with it, which can be good sometime. This is just legend by the side, legend at the top. So you can use this. So this is, like it says, is a quick layout to change the style of your charts. Let's see what it does to this one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So are we all comfortable with charts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we do a quick recap of what we did today. I'm not sure. That was... Quick recap of what we did today. So we did data filtering, sorting. We did we were able to sort by, sort from largest to smallest, A to Z, oldest to newest, which is the date. We created the pivot table. We added, we looked at different elements of the pivot table. We chopped and diced it in different ways to look at different areas. We did a slicer. We added a slicer to our pivot table. And we filtered by different elements. We added a pivot chart. And this pivot chart, by the pivot we've done, you can also, adjust this pivot based on what we just did on those pivots. So you can change the design, you can do anything you've done on what we've just done on the pivots, on this pivot charts, on those charts. You can do them on this pivot chart as well. So we created simple charts from our pivots. And then we move to creating charts and different elements of charts. So if you are not clear about any of these elements, anything we've done today, please let me know so that we can quickly go over them again. But at the end of the lesson, not today's lesson, at the end of everything, we're going to have an exercise that we're going to do that would encompass everything we have learned. Is everyone clear with what we've done so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so one other thing I forgot to show you on this table is how to apply subtotals to tables. apart from the fact that you can put a formula to apply subtotals, you can actually apply subtotals to tables. So I would so our table here, if we where's our subtotal? Data, yeah, subtotal. So I want to apply subtotal to this data. I would select the data. So I have the all data selected. And if you click on subtotal, the subtotal comes up with a box, with a dialog box. And the first thing is going to ask you is, before you do a subtotal, you need to sort your data. So if, for instance, what I want to do, let's assume I want to apply a subtotal to sales per product. One thing I need to do first is to sort the data. So I'm going to sort the data by products. So I'm going to sort A to Z. And I'll show you why I need to sort the data so that my subtotal can work the way I want it to work. So I've sorted by product. So I have my bike first, my skateboard, and my snowboard. So if I go to subtotal now, even without selecting the data, it already knows the data I'm referring to because it's one single data, there's no break in it. So it's already selected the data. And what I want to apply the subtotal to is, and subtotal is when you're adding in segments, you're not adding everything, but you're adding bits by, well, like particular segment based on some criteria. In this case, I want to apply subtotal to my bike, to the products. And it's something that we can do easily on a pivot table. Another way of doing it is adding a subtotal. And what I want to do is, I want to, at each change in, so it's going to look at this data, at each change in product. So when the product changes, what I'm saying is, use a sum function. So I don't want you to count. You can also count if that's what you want to do. So I want to use a sum function, and I want to apply the sum to the sales unit. So every time the product changes, so it goes down from top, anytime the product changes, it would apply a sum, and it will apply the sum to the sales figure. And I'm going to say, okay. And if you watch what happens to this, can you see what happened today? So there's a total now on the bike, because I've told it to like sum, add a subtotal once the product changes. So that's a subtotal. So it's adding up all the bike, and then it goes further down. And once this product changes, it adds a sum. So it's adding a sum to skateboard, and then it will add a sum to snowboard, and then gives you your grand total. And also, it would also group this. If you look at the side, I have like 3, 1, 2, 3 here, and those are the groupings. So it's now grouped it according to the sum. If I click on 1, that's the highest group, that's the grand total. If I click on 2, it will show me the total per product, and 3 will show me everything. So not only has it added subtotal, it has also grouped this data based on the product, because that's what I've asked it to do. If I go to subtotal, and if I, for instance, I want to count the number of bytes, like I want to count the number of maybe rows or something, I can use the count function. And then I can apply that to, it doesn't matter, I can apply it to maybe the product itself, because it's counting, it doesn't have to be sales. It's not adding up. So if I count and okay, what it's done is it's counted the number of bytes here. and that is 43. So it has counted it and it's done the same for all of them. But always make sure that whatever you want to use as a subtotal, you sort by that column first, so that you don't have, like, if you don't sort by that column, then every time you have bike, then you have snowboard. It will just be summing it, adding it up like that, and then it won't make any sense. So if you sum first, and then you can add the subtotal. And of course, it's grouped it together. So that's just simple subtotal. And of course, if you want to do like a manual subtotal, you can always type in your formula. And we'll probably get to simple formula sometime later in, I mean, so maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get to simple formula. Okay. Do we have any questions? We're going to actually stop here today, if there are no questions. And next week, we are going to be looking at VLOOKUP. So some reference, some lookup and reference formula to analyze data, to bring data in. We're going to be looking at the VLOOKUP, we'll look at HLOOKUP. We're going to look at index and match next week.
Amy,
Yeah.
could you please go back to you see the where you did the sum of the bike and the skateboard, like, you know, it was divided individually, like total of the bike and the skateboard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me undo. Okay. Okay. So this is my data. First thing I want to do is I want to sort it. And whatever I want to use as my subtotal, I'll sort it by that. So if for instance, if it's first name I want to use, if I sort by first name, A to Z, and that's because instead of products this time around, I want to apply the subtotal per salesperson. So I've sorted by the name, so that I just want a subtotal per name. I don't want it all over the place. And what I do is I go to data, I click on subtotal, and a dialog box comes. It will default to the last thing I use. So this time around, I want at each change in first name, every time the first name changes, I want to use the sum function, and I want the sum applied to the sales. Is that clear?
Yes, yes.
So every time, at each change in first name, every time you start from the top of the list, every time the first name changes, give me a sum of the sales. That's basically what I've said in this box. Anytime Andrew is moving to Benson, just add Andrew up and give me the sum of Andrew. And then when you see Benson changing to Davis, before Benson, once it changes to the next one, give me the sum of Benson. And then I have summary below the data. So if you click OK, okay, it's telling me it would affect the pivot table. Why is it going to affect my pivot table? I'm going to put this on a different tab.
Sorry, did you already send this data set, this one?
Yes, I already sent. This was the first one I sent.
Okay, the first one.
Yeah, so this was the first one. Okay, so let's filter. And then let's do a subtotal. So as it change in first name, use the sum function and apply the sum to sales. And okay. And then once it gets to the end of Andrew, it would apply a sum. And then it gets to Benson, applies a sum all the way down. And because it's applied the subtotal, it has actually grouped this. So you can see just the total per salesperson. If you click on 2 by the side here, or you can see the grand total alone if you click on 1. If you click on 2, you can easily expand this by these plus signs here. If you want to expand Andrews, you click on the plus sign and expand it. If you want to see Gavin breakdown, for instance, click on the plus sign beside Gavin, and you can expand that. And to collapse it, just click on the negative sign, and then you can collapse it. Is that clear?
Yes, I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I would, if you just this week, please just practice the charts and just dice it in different ways. Practice your pivot table. And if you have any data, any other data, you can also use it to practice. And I will see you next week, Tuesday. So you can stop the recording.